Let's see how many people we get. We are going live to the universe right now, Ray. So, I suppose firstly, well, thanks very so much for joining me for today's Business Insights, Ray. Fascinating backstory, which we're going to uncover as we go through today's interview. But maybe if you just give us a brief intro into who Ray Keefe is and what does he do all day, every day. Yeah, 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 yeah. Right. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Right. I'm going to get you to pause for a second, Ray, because we've got an audio issue. Apparently, people can't hear you, and I'm buggered if I know why. Let me have a look at my audio stuff. Okay, I'm going to try. I can, but they can't. So I am going to switch around here. Hello, you can hear no translation, and see if you can. There's a few people. You can put in the chat box. Can you hear Ray right now? Ray, give us a bit of a test.
Okay, all right. Once upon a time, in a far, far land away, there was this thing called business success. Sometimes it turns out to be a mythical story, but sometimes it's actually true.
Now we have to wait the 20-second
I
delay
haven't.
to see if people can hear that. So we'll sort of let them chat amongst themselves while we hopefully make this work. It's quite interesting because I don't know. Yep, I hear the story, but echoey and low volume. Oh, goodness.
All right. I can.
Cancellation back on. Ray, let's keep talking. Yeah. Let's see what happens now, because what we've done is I've just turned echo cancellation back on, and sometimes that mutes you. So Russ is listening, and let's see if he can hear you. We're waiting, we're waiting. But while we're waiting, um, yeah, with the 20-second delay, it sort of puts us on this very bizarre time frame. It's like, can they hear him? And now we wait 20 seconds. So we'll go to sleep for a bit, have a bit of a snooze. Yeah, I'm sending you a text message to keep. Thanks, Russ. Can you hear Ray? No, look at that, it's gone up twice. Nothing like a cunning plan that doesn't work out, Ray. Yeah. If we can get this working, we'll keep going. If not, we might have to reconvene at a new date. But I'd love to know why it's not working. Well, we'll do a bit of troubleshooting as we're going. Let's go back to the story, because we are recording and there are some people observing. So, yeah. Mm, yeah. Mm, yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm, yeah. Yeah. Mm, mm-hmm, yeah. Yeah, great. Mm-hmm,
So the things that I learned coming out of that journey is Australia has the lowest rate of business-to-business collaboration in the world.
yes.
We rank 181 out of 181 for business-to-business collaborations. So we're not very good at partnering with each other, and we often see other people in the ecosystem of business around us
Yeah.
as costs rather than as opportunities or as leverage that we should take advantage of.
Okay.
We also have a very low rate of academia to industry engagement. That's partly driven by the low collaboration cultural problem, but it's also driven by the way the federal government funds universities. They're not actually funded to be useful to industry.
Yeah.
They're funded around metrics that actually don't push them in that direction.
Yeah.
We also have very low publicly funded research commercialisation,
Yeah.
low general commercialisation capability, low access to finance,
Mm-hmm.
and the average Australian business manager is incompetent by world standards.
It's a pretty brutal analysis, isn't it, Ray?
It is. So my problem was that I was an incompetent business owner manager.
Yep.
And so to fix that, I had to find someone I could learn the skill of business from.
Mm-hmm.
Across the whole of the business, not just one area.
Yeah.
Because once you fix that one, all the rest of them are still a problem. Um, so if we look at what's happened since then, 2009, we rebranded, moved into commercial premises. The old branding was so bad, no one noticed we'd gone.
Yeah.
And they were effectively starting again. So I've got two jokes out of that era. As a business owner, I made a very good engineer.
Yeah.
And the other one is I've been involved in two startups. It was the same business. We just actually did it properly the second time.
They're two good jokes. The first one's a bit dad joke-ish, but the second one's pretty good.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to do that. If something's not working, sometimes you just have to stop.
Yeah. Well,
reformulate, restart.
You know what I love about this conversation is, you know, a lot of people get business very messed up, very mixed up. And in our world, we see a lot of self-employed people that call themselves business owners. And
Yes.
it's a job, right? It's a high-risk job with no guarantee of a paycheck. And what you've just described here, which resonates with me the most, is the whole purpose of business is to find a problem and solve the problem. And whenever we look at business and people say, well, I'm thinking of doing this, I'm thinking of doing that, I'm saying, what problem do you solve and how much do the people that you're talking to value you solving the problem? Are they willing to part with their cash?
Yeah. So I find that one's interesting. The reason we tripled our prices is because of this thing called cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good word that means that if you've got opposing thoughts in your head about something, you'll tend not to act on it. And in business, what that means is if people have got conflicting thoughts about something, they're not buying.
Yeah.
And so the problem with being too cheap is that they've got that's a bargain thought in their head, and they've got what's wrong with this offer thought in their head at the same time.
Yeah, gotcha.
So some people will buy that, but the people you really want as customers, the one who are prepared to pay good value, are not buying that one. So getting your pricing wrong actually drives your ideal customers away from you.
Yeah, interesting thought.
Yeah. So that's part of getting that mix right. So the reason we moved into commercial premises is we design sophisticated electronics products that are intended to be made in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
We're focusing on the made in Australia part in particular.
Yep.
It's an industry people don't realise exists, or because the industry's been terrible at its own PR.
Yeah.
And it's actually technically difficult, which means that some of the problems we have to solve, we work on projects that people haven't done before in the history of the world. So you can't Google the answers. So you actually got to bring real skill to the table for those classes of problem. That job's not for everyone, obviously.
Yeah.
Your risk aversion appetite has got to be in the right space for you to want to take stuff like that on.
Yeah.
But you've also got to charge what it's worth to solve those problems.
Yes.
Sometimes, if I tell somebody it's going to cost this to do what you want, they'll go, that's a lot of money. And I'll go, compared to what?
Right.
Or I'll go, if that amount of money is too big to solve that problem, you may not have a business case.
Yes.
So the problem here is not that I'm expensive. The problem here is that you might not actually have a business case. You might need to go. So we do a lot of mentoring, particularly of newer clients, newer business owners, to help them think about the business side of the equation. So the first question I usually ask people if they say, can you design us one of these things and get it made? I'll say, who's going to sell it? Because they're a stakeholder in what we do.
Yes.
If I don't build features into the product to allow it to get sold,
Mm-hmm.
or to allow it to get made, or allow it to get efficiently serviced and supported in the field, if I don't understand what that route to market model looks like, I can't do a good job for them.
Yeah.
And I often find that they're thinking, I'll get the product, then I'll work all that out later.
Yeah. The old build a better mousetrap philosophy, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so what I normally do at that point is say, okay, back to the opportunity solution piece, there is probably an opportunity here,
Mm-hmm.
but the solution has to fit the market.
Yes.
And what the market needs. And so you've got to decide what your market is. The other thing is you can't sell it to everyone. You've got to think about who your customer is. You actually got to have a target. You can't hit a bullseye if they're just saying, fire the arrow. Anywhere you fire this arrow, I want it to hit a bullseye.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You actually got to refine it down and get some definition around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my wife and I went on that journey. We became more competent. We moved our business so that we looked like what our customers were expecting to be buying
Yes.
as a business.
Yep.
So we thought about that side of things. 15 months later, we won Casey Business of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we were necessarily the best business in Casey, but because we learned to tell our story of why we existed as a business and what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And the other thing with winning business awards and technical awards is it's a bit like winning tenders. Answer the actual questions you're being asked.
Yeah.
Don't just put stuff on the page. Actually think about it and give them answers that are credible. So we're at 54 awards now.
Right.
So we've had some practice. That's one of our PR strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't cold called anyone in a decade.
Yeah.
And that's because we use the PR to help people notice us, and then they come to us. So it's very efficient. The filtering is done by our prospects.
Yeah. Well, we were just having this discussion this morning where, there's still, in our business, we can cold call people or we can follow up people, but we've adopted this philosophy of the prize never chases. And the emphasis has to be on being the prize. And what you've just described is all about making sure that the brand is very clear in the marketplace so people can see what it is that you do, understand how you work, and they knock on your door rather than you having to knock on theirs.
Yeah, and that came out of something our business coach said to us. So he said two things to me that helped me in this space. Because of the tall poppy syndrome in Australia, we're not keen to self-promote.
Yeah.
And so he said two things to me. He says, Ray, are you any good? And he says, don't say anything. Don't write anything on your website. I can pay people to write nice stuff on your website. I don't believe you. Prove it.
Yep.
So what the awards do is they give people confidence we're worth having that first conversation with. That's what they're selling. The awards are selling the fact that we're worth talking to.
Yep.
And so they get people coming to us rather than the other way around. The other thing that he said to me is every time you don't fully explain to someone what you bring to the table and how they can benefit from it, you've not only robbed you, you've really also robbed them.
Yes.
So once I got my head around the fact that this was for their benefit, not for my rah, 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 then I got a lot more comfortable with it. I was helping them to make a decision to buy something that was actually going to be really good for them.
Yeah, brilliant.
And so that's one of the shifts that have to happen in my mindset. And my business coach did say to me, Ray, you are such an engineer, I don't know if you can make this transition. Or maybe he's just really good at manipulating people and he knew what buttons were going to actually get me moving.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it works, but you get that.
Yeah, I do get that. I run a team now, so we've got a team of 12 technical professionals.
Yes.
It's the old, managing consultants is like herding cats. So these are really smart people, and they've all got their foibles.
Yes.
And so part of my job is to work out how to get the best out of them each day. Yeah, and so I've built a bit of a model of what business looks like coming out of this thing.
Yes.
So most people start with the E-Myth thing. I know how to do this, therefore I'll do this and I'll sell this and people will buy this. And, or if you're a tradie, a plumber or whatever, you'll go from working for someone else and then you'll go and set up your own, sole trader, whatever format. And the joke in that space is, I used to work for an idiot, but now I'm my own boss.
Yeah, that's not a joke, it's truth. Unfortunately I'm not laughing at that one because it's sort of true for most people. And hence, herein lies the battle. I think when people go into business ownership in Australia, you get an ABN when you go into business. But for 90% of people, that's a self-employment job with an unreliable paycheck. And I think when you...
Maybe.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what you touched on before is this whole idea of really a business. The purpose of a business is to add value to people's lives in so much disproportion to the money they spend that they can't say no. And you look at, there's a lot of stellar examples, and I think Tesla is one of those ones. They don't do a lot of marketing. You never see an ad for a Tesla vehicle, right? And you sort of look at that. And then the most recent one, ChatGPT. Everyone's talking about this thing. And when you look at the statistics, the number of users they have picked up in a record time has everything to do with how smart they were about their marketing. So you sort of look at it and you go, okay, there is a method in their madness. It's all about getting people to use the product, see value in it, and then talk about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So the thing that we find is that if you can become a competent business owner manager,
Yeah.
or you can get competent people around you to fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
There's more than one way to do this. Then that takes a whole bunch of chains off your business
Yes.
and what it's capable of being. The model I use, there's a term called reverse salient. It's a military term, and it means working out why you can't advance the
Okay.
army. And the normal reason is that the enemy has high ground.
Mhm.
And if you go past them, then they'll be able to shoot into your back.
Right.
So you've actually got to take that hill before you go past them. So whether it's arrows or whether it's bullets, it's the same problem. The shields are all at the front.
Mhm.
If you walk past the enemy, then they're shooting into your back. So that becomes your reverse salient. That becomes the hill you have to take
Okay.
before you can move forward. You can apply the same concept to your business. What is the thing that's holding you back? What's the thing that you've got to fix? Because quite often someone can come and say, we'll fix your marketing, we'll get you 10 times the number of leads you're getting out.
Yeah.
But if you can't close a lead,
Yeah. You're just 10 times busier.
You'll 10 times as many people that you fail to sell to.
Yeah.
So, that may not be your problem. So the model that I use is one of those wooden buckets with the vertical sides on them.
Mhm.
If one of those sides is shorter than the others, the amount of water that bucket can hold will be determined by the shortest
Yeah.
of those palings.
Mhm.
What most people do is they're good at a few things and they really suck at some other things, and there's some other things they don't even know that they suck at.
Yeah. Right.
They're not even paying attention. It's the unconscious incompetence
Yeah.
side of the equation that you don't know that you don't know.
Mhm.
And so what they do, they think, I want to improve my business. So they'll try and lengthen one of their long sides
Yeah.
a bit, rather than, and it doesn't change anything, and they think this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they're right. What they're doing isn't actually solving their problem.
Yeah.
It's because their problem's something different. So in our case, rather than try and sell the technical side of the business,
Mm.
we were good at what we did technically.
Yeah.
That wasn't a problem. So we actually started with brand. And we went back to who are we? Why do we exist? Who are we trying to serve? What value are we trying to put on the table for them? And we started with that particular equation.
Yeah.
And then from that, we worked our way out to who else. We did the marketing piece. Who else is in the market?
Yes.
Who are they servicing?
Yeah.
Who's already well looked after? Who's not being looked after? So I know that there are 7 businesses in Melbourne in my space bigger than me
Mhm.
that have all got particular sections of the market they're looking after.
Yeah.
And some of those sections I'm not going to touch because there are expenses and certifications that go to dealing in those spaces that I'm not going to take on
Yeah. Right.
as a business. And they're already doing it anyway.
Yes.
And then there are 600 businesses smaller than mine that are 1 and 2 man bands operating out of their garages or serviced offices,
Yep.
trying to do what I was doing, but with the same problem I had, which is that they can't run their business properly. So it doesn't matter how well they code or how well they design circuit boards.
Yep.
They're struggling along.
Yeah.
And so
Gotcha.
that really hurts the whole economy because my business is part of an ecosystem.
Mhm.
It's like a plant growing in a garden. The plants around me make a difference.
Yeah.
The quality of the soil makes a difference. Whether it's weeded or not makes a difference.
Yes.
If I'm the sort of plant that needs pruning in order to then take off again, and that doesn't happen, that makes a difference.
Yep.
So I need to look after my suppliers.
Yes.
I need to look after my clients. I need to understand all of the stakeholders who are benefiting from what I'm doing and make sure they're being looked after. I also need to look after my competitors because if my business purpose is to change the Australian economy, they're actually all on my team.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm not worried about competition anymore. I now think about, it's the old Greek thing, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes.
So how do we improve the economy? I really wish, federal and state governments would get this better because they say we're not in the business of picking winners.
Yeah.
So I think, does that mean you're only in the business of picking losers?
Yeah.
I mean, how does that work? I mean, what you've got to do is you've got to provide an environment in which businesses want to step in and want to invest and want to do stuff.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting sort of thought process that you've got here, because often you started off by saying in Australia we're not very good at collaboration.
Yes.
And I think that's our Achilles heel, right? Because all of our manufacturing has been moving offshore. Like the automotive industry, just less than 5 years ago, just went off.
Well, they were assassinated, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always look at this and I think, well, we're always known as the clever country. But if we're so clever, how come we haven't worked out what we're going to do instead of all of these things that are going offshore?
Yeah. So when the automotive industry moved offshore, they were actually less than 5% of Australia's manufacturing.
Yeah.
So it was a big visible exit, but we added 1 million direct jobs to Australian manufacturing over COVID, and not just making sanitizer, but actually starting to make some of the stuff we were dependent on that we've been relying on logistics chains to deliver,
Right.
suddenly wasn't reliable anymore.
Yeah.
So there's now 1 million direct jobs in Australian manufacturing. The vast majority of them are full-time. There's only 9.8 million full-time jobs in the whole economy.
Right.
So 1 in 10 jobs in the economy in Australia is directly in manufacturing at the moment, and they have jobs around them. So they have the largest indirect to direct job ratio of any industry.
Yeah.
Because you need truck drivers and deliveries and office works and cleaners and all that stuff around them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so based on that, 26% of the current jobs in the Australian economy are dependent on manufacturing, either directly or indirectly.
Interesting.
So we're looking after, and that's one of the things that, is the reason that we exist, is that we want to make it possible for people to make stuff here commercially, competitively.
Yeah, and this whole idea of innovation, because I'm a big fan of innovation in business, and I think one of the things COVID did for a lot of people is it forced them to innovate.
Yeah.
And forced innovation is not ideal, but it's better than no innovation. And it sort of caused the whole economy to rethink how they delivered their service, their product, everything.
Right.
And there's a lot of winners that came out of that, because people who thought they were going to go under actually started accelerating the growth of their business during the crisis. And it was like, okay, so now we've proven that the economy doesn't dictate how successful you are as a business. What dictates how successful you are as a business is your nimbleness and your willingness to understand what the market needs.
That's right, and how you think about business.
Yeah. So it makes you recession proof. It makes you economy proof if you're a true business owner. And you've touched on it a number of times about this whole idea of opportunity exists every single day. It's just that most people are so stuck in the engine room, putting coal in the fireplace, that they're not at the helm seeing what's going on in the economy. And all it takes is a bit of assessment. And you talked about brand, and often people say, I don't need to market, I've got all the work I need through word of mouth. And I look at it and I say, it's not just about getting new customers, it's about being able to charge more. It's about making sure that you find good employees, because as you touched on, we're in an economy now where people are saying, well, there's not many people looking for work. Unemployment's at an all-time low. And so what do we do? I said, well, if you've got an attractive business, if your PR is working for you, people will be looking to work for you, rather than you putting an ad on Seek. So a lot of what you've talked...
If I put an ad on Seek, I'll get 3,000 Indians wanting me to sponsor them to come to Australia.
Yeah, which is fine if that's what I'm looking for. But the truth of the matter is, when you talk about PR, I look at it as it's not just about getting new clients, it's about also getting new employees as well, getting new partners, finding new business. So a whole lot of different opportunities come out of it as well.
Yeah, and I think the partner one's really important. So we've specifically selected businesses that, as suppliers and as partners, who offer complementary services that are needed by our customers that we don't want to do in-house, but we want someone to be able to offer that.
Yes.
And we weed them over time down to the ones who get it, who are of the right mindset, so it's not just about getting enough money out of it, but it's also about that affinity, that values commonality. There's an efficiency to, rocking up with a new project to one of your supply partners and saying, we've got another one of these. They go, oh, good. And then you're kind of knocking it into shape really quickly rather than having to have the whole education conversation about what is this thing even,
Yeah.
what's possible, how will we work together, all of that kind of things.
Yeah, so it's sort of true leadership to just say, let's go out there and let's find out where we can add value, and then work on it together and see what comes out the other end.
Yeah, and personally, I think that the best business model is to make sure you're a contributor. So, and contributing to real solutions. And what that means is that you will charge a good price for what you do, but the value will exceed it. You're making a net contribution to the economy. You're making a net contribution to your clients.
Yes.
But you need to charge a good price for it so you can keep doing that.
Yeah.
As well.
And
if you're not profitable enough, then you're going to be in that scarcity mindset on the money side of things. That will drive your thinking back into the I have to get more money, rather than I have to actually, change the world. I want to change the world more. How do I do that? Well, it takes the money problem off the table. The money's dealt with.
Yeah, and you sort of touched on this whole scarcity versus abundance mindset as well. And people are out there trying to steal other people's business. And to me, that's not a way to grow a business. The way to grow a business is to innovate and come up with a fresh approach, attract people based on the addition of value. And I don't think, money in business is a very interesting thing because it's a measurement of performance, but it's a rear view mirror.
Yes, and metrics is really important. So if the only metric you measure is your bank account, then you're not. So some of the things that we do, so we've tried some stuff. So these metrics work for us, but I think every business needs to work out what its key indicators of success are. So we look at things like cost of client acquisition, lifetime value of a client.
Yes.
We have a bunch of stats around invoicing and client value per annum. We look at lead sources and conversion rates for each of those lead sources. Because if you've got a good number of leads but conversion is really difficult, that's not worth putting the same amount of effort into as in, So our website, 1 in 3 of our new clients sends us a contact form, from our filter to contact form on our website. That rocked up. We contact them. We have a conversion rate of just over 30% with that.
Yeah, fantastic.
And that's because our website's designed to attract people who are interested in what we do, not just for traffic like your typical digital marketer is aimed for. Traffic is useless for targeted marketing.
So we often talk about this because everyone says, I need more leads, and I usually convince them they need less leads. Because
they need the right kind of leads.
The right kind of leads and a better conversion system and a better retention system. And so it's a workflow, right? And money's the net result, which is left over at the end. But really, when we look at leads and conversion, if I get referrals, I have a high conversion rate, 70, 80%. If I get cold leads that are not qualified, my conversion rate drops. Now, neither one's good nor bad. The question is, what am I trying to achieve here? And so you talk about whole of business and KPIs, and I'm a big fan of leading KPIs and lagging KPIs. And lagging KPIs are like driving a car by looking out the rear view mirror. So
absolutely.
So finances are always like telling you what happened. They're not telling you what's happening right now.
And you also need this economically. So my business is a leading KPI for the Australian economy. We get busy about 6 months before the people making stuff get busier because of what we did.
Right.
So if we're on an upward trend, that means that the Australian economy in general is on an upward trend.
So can you tell us what the current state of affairs are?
So we flatlined during COVID for a couple of reasons. Lost 4 staff who worked out that they preferred to do something a bit easier. And they're working from home and trying to do what we did, because we're one of the businesses where you had to work from home if you could. For some of our stuff, and so and we haven't fully replaced them yet. And we also lost $1 million worth of turnover from one of our clients who we'd helped grow up to the point where they could then do for themselves what we've been doing for them. So there's a lot of costs associated with that. So that's not $1 million off the bottom line, that's $1 million off the top line. And so the actual drop in our business turnover didn't affect our profitability very much.
Interesting.
And it's actually something we try to do. We try to grow our clients to the point where they need us less so we can help other people. from a fixed capacity perspective, I've got so much capacity. I want to be helping more people, so I also want to grow up the current people we're helping so they need us less, so they're a bit more self-sufficient,
Yeah.
rather than milk them and keep them stuck to us. Because I don't see that as a really good business model.
No.
At least it doesn't work in our sector very well. And because that's what leads people to eventually say, oh, it's cheaper in China, I'll go to China.
Yep.
And the problem is it's one transactional line item that's cheaper in China. The total cost of doing business is often not cheaper.
Yeah, right.
That's a whole different conversation that I have with people. So
back to the economy. I'm sort of curious.
We're currently back in the growth phase. Since I got my act together as a business owner, we have averaged over the last 13 years 28% per annum compounded growth.
Yeah, nice.
So that includes it flattened and then it's picking up a bit. So that flat is actually in that 28% average.
Yeah.
So some years it's been more.
Brilliant.
And so that's what you want to see is you want to see growth significantly above CPI, because that the business is actually growing its ability to help people.
Yes.
Not just tracking along with the rest of the economy.
Yeah.
And I also want to see, the clients that we're working with.
Yeah.
Not only take advantage of our engineering skill, but take advantage of what we can share with them about business principles and about, doing better, being in the ecosystem together, looking after each other. Yeah. Because that really helps also. Yeah,
fantastic. So you're seeing an uptick in your business, which means the economy is going to follow that as well?
Yeah, we're flat out at the moment. I would hire. We are in a hiring process, which is interesting. We're also had to change pricing because we're coming into an era now where input costs like labour are much more expensive.
Yes.
So you've got to adjust your pricing to take that into account.
Of course.
We're also in an era where component shortages and logistics costs are high. So there's a whole bunch of structural costs have gone up in people's businesses.
Yeah.
So they either have to get more efficient, and there's limits to how much of that you can sensibly do.
Yes.
Or you've actually got to shift your pricing. But if you're going to shift your pricing, you need to explain it.
100%. I mean, you can carry the economy as the excuse. So just saying CPI has gone up, therefore our costs have gone up. But I think what you're talking about here is being a bit more granular around how you are setting the pricing, because you talked about you tripled your price and it helped you clarify your target by increasing price. And I think a lot of people are fearful. If I increase price, I'll lose clients. And all that tells me is that you're not clear on your value if you think a price increase is going to lose your clients.
I agree.
Yeah.
We had two clients working in the same industry.
Yeah.
Effectively selling the same product.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing work for two competitors at the same time.
Okay.
I think the worst case is in water metering, we were doing work for four competitors at the same time.
Right.
So I'm really clear with people about that. So I was saying, just so you know, some of your competitors have also selected us to develop their next, market-leading offering.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm letting you know that, because if you're not comfortable with that, we can stop now. But that's all you'll know about that.
Yes.
They won't learn anything about what we're doing for you either.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because confidentiality is really important. So we're working with two competitors. They know it.
Mm-hmm.
One of them's got product. It's the same product.
Yep.
Just a bit of different colour scheme and a few other variations. So one of the products is on the market at price X. The other one's on the market at about 1.7x.
Right.
There's a 70% difference between the two prices. The more expensive product is outselling the cheaper product than one.
Super interesting, right?
Yeah, and that's because they understood their clients, they understood what their clients, they understood how to position it, they understood how to explain the value. One of them is focusing on price.
Yeah.
The other one's focusing on what the client needs.
Yeah.
And how to demonstrate their solution meets the need.
Sounds so simple when you say it that way.
Yeah.
But
that's the heart of understanding the problem.
Yeah.
Is getting it down to the simple core, getting the noise away from it and working out what the core of this issue is.
Yeah, interesting. Look, we've gone a little bit over time, but I just want to close off on a couple of things. First of all, books that you read. Like, where do you think people need to go to learn about how to think properly about business?
Yeah, so I'd say mostly don't read the US-based books.
Mm-hmm.
because they work in the US culture, they work in the US
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some excellent stuff. So if you're in the innovation space, Clayton Christensen's The Innovator's Dilemma
Mm-hmm.
is a really good book for unpacking that. How do you leapfrog other businesses in the innovation space?
Yep.
Amanda Imber, a Sydney-based author, wrote The Innovation Formula. That is an excellent book on innovation and how it works in the Australian culture.
Yes.
And stuff like that. The Dynamic Leader by Shelley Flett. She's written a business leadership book
Mm-hmm.
for the Australian culture.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd certainly recommend that sort of stuff. I read very broadly, and I cheat. So for books that I don't want to read cover to cover, but I want to pick up the core ideas of,
Yep.
I subscribe to Soundview.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll knock a book down to a 30-minute podcast
Yeah, gotcha.
that I can listen to in the car.
Yep.
Or while I'm doing stuff like that. And then if it sounds interesting enough, I'll buy it and read the whole book to get the rest of the meat from it. But a lot of books have got a lot of filler in them. So that's the other thing with books is you've got to be, careful with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So my business coach encouraged me, I'll probably read a book a fortnight
Great.
on all sorts of topics.
Mm.
The most recent one I just finished is The Shortest History of Greece.
Okay.
The Greeks invented so many different ways of thinking about the modern world,
Yes.
and they had the longest running empire in the history of the world so far.
Okay.
So from the split of Rome to the Ottoman Empire invasion, 1,300 years.
Yes, that's fantastic. That's good. Look, I love this idea. I learned many years ago to read books as a diet, not as a sort of knock them off the list. And so I'm on the same track, 2 books a month. I tend to try and read a little bit broad. I've sort of taken a deep dive into the Stoic philosophy, which takes a lot of history into account. But just getting these books, and Russ has asked, can we get those books linked into the chat? I'll do that after the call. And look, I suppose if we're going to land this whole plane and you have to convey your message in 1 or 2 sentences about how people in Australia should be looking at their business right now, what would you say?
The number one problem Australian businesses have is the people running them are not yet competent at running them. So get that business education piece sorted, because it doesn't matter what business you're in. I mean, the tactics vary from industry to industry,
Yeah.
but the principles are pretty universal. The kind of group you're running, David, wasn't around, or it wasn't on my radar, but the fact that you have people with a broad range of skill sets across the group means that you can actually help people with all of those areas. You need to pay more than you're comfortable with to get this sorted, because it's actually your Achilles heel. It's the single biggest problem you have.
Yeah.
And so it's worth investing in you so that you can because you've got a dream. The only way you can actually fulfill your dream is to have the right ingredients to pull that off, and your capability to do your part of it is one of those pieces.
Fantastic.
So, suck it up, do it.
Ray, it's been a pleasure actually having this conversation today. I wasn't sure where it was going to end up, and we got our technology finally sorted, so hopefully the recording turns out okay for those who missed the first part. Obviously, if people want to reach you, they can find you very easily. We don't even have to have URLs or anything anymore. It's just Ray Keefe.
No, I'm quite visible. Large LinkedIn following, so that's one of our PR strategies. So
Yeah, really appreciate your time today, Ray. It's been a pleasure having a chat, and thanks again.
Yeah, likewise, David, and everybody, good